When I started, I looked like this, and now I look like this. And it looks like I really just changed physically, but the most important change that I really had was mentally. If you're trying to glow up and for some reason it feels like you just can't, it likely means that you're just missing the most important step, which is changing your mentality first. It's really just a simple process of changing your mindset and then glowing up mentally and then finally glowing up physically. And it's gonna sound intimidating right now because you've never done that process before, but thankfully I've done that process multiple times. And by the end of this video, it'll be impossible for you not to be able to do the same thing. Everybody wants to change their life physically. And it makes a lot of sense. When you look good, you feel good. And everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants to go from that insecure person to that confident person that can take over whatever room that they're in. Every single one of your insecurities seem to be because of your physical body. So what better way to change that than change your physical body? And we may feel like changing physically, going to the gym, fixing our physical flaws, buying a whole new wardrobe to be confident in our clothes. We may feel like that stuff is going to fix all of our problems. But I promise you that insecurity is never going to go away. It's just going to manifest itself into a different thing. Changing the way that you want to changes nothing. That insecurity is always going to be there. It's just going to look different. There's a reason that successful people are still insecure about themselves. There's a reason that rich people are still insecure about their finances, because they've never really changed the root of the issue. Like, really think about those things that used to be successes for you that have now become an insecurity. Like for the people that go to the gym, maybe a PR that you've had that you've been really working towards. Let's say you want to get a 225 bench. When you finally reach that success, it starts to become an insecurity because now you're recognizing all the people that have hit 315. That insecurity never went away. It just looks different now. And if that's the case, was your strength ever really the insecurity, or was it something else? And I'm gonna expand on that later on in the video. But insecurity never starts from your physical body. It always starts from up here. It always starts with your mentality. Changing yourself physically is the easiest part of everything. Changing your mentality and changing the way that you actually think, that's the most difficult part, and that's why we try to procrastinate by going to the easy stuff. That's why when I brought up the idea of glowing up, the first thing you probably thought of was a physical change that you can make in your life. Now, the first step in changing or glowing up in any way of your life is understanding and recognizing your mindset. Your mindset is the most important factor in the way that you view the world, in the way that you view yourself, in the way that you view anything realistically. This is really your foot in the door. Without recognizing the importance of your mindset and the importance of shifting that when you have to, the other two steps in changing physically or mentally can never really happen. If you're overweight, if you're underweight, if you feel like you're stupid, if you feel like you're not funny, if you just don't like the person that you are right now, the one thing that allowed you to get to that point is your mindset. And this is always where your insecurity is going to come from. It's not going to come from another person. It's not going to come from the comments that somebody else made. It's not going to come from the person that you saw on the internet. It's always going to come from your mindset. It feels good to blame other people for this stuff, but it gets to a point where you cannot blame other people for your mindset. Your mindset has allowed you to become insecure with how you look, and is convincing you that you are disgusting to look at. When in reality, despite what our mindset tells us, there is nothing wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with your height. There's nothing wrong with your voice. There's nothing wrong with your personality. There's nothing wrong with these things that we've attached so much value to. And before I even finish that point, I wanted to give you some quick reassurance that your value and your worth is not determined by how you look or how you view yourself. You need to stop attaching your self-worth and your self-value to things that do not matter to anybody at all. Your value does not come from how tall you are, or how your voice sounds, or how attractive you are, or how funny you are. Your value is not attached to those things that we've attached value to. There is always room for improvement. There's always something that we can be better at. But if you attach so much value and so much worth to that thing, so much so that you're obsessing over it, you feel like that's the only thing that you can think about, then you're never actually going to improve upon those things. But firstly, I want to talk about the physical glow up that a lot of people really want, because let's be honest, that's probably what most people clicked on this video for. The root of wanting to change physically is usually never actually to be healthy, or never genuinely to improve yourself. Most of the time we want to change physically, it's so we can feel confident and feel good, which 100% makes sense. Who doesn't want to feel confident, and who doesn't want to feel good? And that's not really the point. The point is that if you change physically but don't get rid of that mindset that you already have, you are never going to feel good with how you look. You will never truly feel confident. So with all the context out the way, I'm actually going to talk about things that you can do to change your mindset and actually improve the right way. The most important question that a human can ask is why. And it's the same thing with changing your mindset. If you want to change your mindset, you have got to figure out the why. And even hearing that, you might be questioning why. Why do I have to understand the why? And that's a completely valid question. Your mindset is not something that developed overnight. It's something that was constantly building since the time you were like 5 years old up until now. Your mindset is a collection of every traumatic experience, every thought that you've ever had, every good experience that you've had. Your mindset is a collection of all of these things that we cannot necessarily remember if we really try to. So if you want to change your mindset, you have got to get to the root of every issue. You have got to start questioning why to certain things. For example, why do you feel unattractive? What about how you look makes you feel like you are unlovable? And then when we ask ourselves these things, we try to hide behind these basic things like, I don't like the way that my nose looks, or I don't like the way that my body looks, or I don't like my voice, when there's clearly something deeper to it. And that's what the why really is about. The reason that you continue to find yourself complaining about your insecurities, and then the people around you are like, okay, what are you talking about? Nobody really noticed that, is because you specifically have attached so much value to these things. You have attached value to the way that you look, or the way that you sound, or the way that you think, and now you have got to figure out exactly why you have attached that value to it. And just as an example, I can start with myself. When I was younger, I was very insecure about my height as well as my voice. And was there anything wrong with my voice or anything wrong with my height? No, there wasn't. I was a 13-year-old kid going through puberty. Of course I'm gonna have a high voice. Of course I'm not going to be the tallest. And even now, I'm not the tallest person ever. But when I figured out my why, when I figured out exactly why I was insecure about that stuff, I really just stopped caring about it. And the why for me, the reason that I was so insecure about this stuff, is because I was raised by a father that focused so heavily on masculinity and trying to make me a real man. And as a 13-year-old kid, I connotated masculinity to all of these things, like how deep your voice is, or how tall you are, or how strong you are. And being a 13-year-old who was clearly growing slower than his peers, that pressure and all of those expectations that I had for myself, which I guess I can say came from my father or the other male figures in my life, made me feel like I was always behind. So I became very insecure when I saw somebody taller than me, or stronger than me, or with a deeper voice than me, because I felt like I was less of a man and I wasn't living up to those expectations that I felt like were valuable to me. My height and my voice were never the real insecurity that I had. Those were just the basic things that was really easy to explain to other people, when in reality the real insecurity I had was my lack of masculinity, or the lack of masculinity that I felt like I had. And now that I've grown and I've matured, and also with how amazing my father is, I recognize that masculinity is not dependent on those things. Sometimes with your surroundings, you are never offered an opportunity to be comfortable with yourself. And that is not your fault. It is not your responsibility as a child to make yourself comfortable with the person that you are. But now what I will say is that now that you're older, it is now your responsibility to make yourself comfortable with those things that you're insecure about. It's definitely not fair, and it's also not your fault, but sometimes that's just life. We've got to deal with the cards that we're dealt. When you really think to yourself, why am I insecure about the things that I'm insecure about? You have got to recognize the fact that you were never given an opportunity to be secure with yourself. And if that's the case, I want you to truly recognize how meaningless those flaws that you think you have actually are. Like for me, I've always had that insecurity about my height. I always thought that I was going to struggle finding a girlfriend because of how tall I was. But I have never genuinely struggled with that despite my height. That stuff genuinely does not matter. Now, when it comes to actually shifting that mindset to what it is now to what it can be, it all starts with recognizing that if your mindset is full of self-hatred and insecurity, you are not giving yourself the opportunity to feel comfortable. You are creating a space internally that you cannot grow in. The only thing growing in this space of your mind is that insecurity and those things that you don't like about yourself. If you continue to inhabit negativity in your mind, your insecurity is just going to feed on your other insecurities, and now you've just got a big mindset full of insecurity. So now the reason that you're insecure is no longer because of the comments that they made towards you or the surroundings that you were brought up in. The reason that you are insecure is because of you. It's now because of you not creating a space to be comfortable with who you are, because your mindset is full of all of this negativity. If you think that you're a messy person and you look around and your room looks crazy, you're not a messy person because your room is messy. You're a messy person because you do not clean your room. You cannot blame anything else anymore. It's you. It's the environment that you've created around you. To glow up the way that you want to, This has got to change. The mindset that you have has got to change. You have got to find a way to accept yourself despite the flaws that you feel like you have. Even if you have to lie to yourself, even if you have to continuously tell yourself that you love this thing about you, you have got to do that. Because the same way that you fed yourself all of these lies, all these negative things about yourself, you can feed yourself quote-unquote lies about these positive things in your life. Because eventually what you tell yourself is going to become a reality. You have got to find a way to create a comfortable environment mentally, or nothing you do physically will ever matter. Nothing that you do with changing your personality will ever matter. Right now, you probably have that mentality that there is something wrong with you, that the comments that people continuously make towards you are right, that you aren't or cannot live up to the expectations that you've set for yourself. I need you to realize that none of that stuff is true. None of these things truly define who you are or the character that you have. Despite the comments that people make about you, despite the way that you think you look, despite the way that you think, you are worthy of appreciating yourself. You are worthy of the things that you want in life. And I'm gonna say it again, your value and your worth is not dependent on these things that you have attached value to. I need you to take the value that you've attached to these things that do not matter and attach it to something that actually is important. And things that actually matter, such as, are you a good person? Do you make people feel good? Are you doing what you're supposed to be doing in your life? Do the people around you appreciate the way that you make them feel? Stop focusing and stop attaching so much value to these physical things that do not matter at all in God's plan. And start attaching value to these things that are actually going to make the world a better place. Because that right there is a glow up in itself. Improving the way that you make other people feel, that is a selfless glow up. And that's the only glow up that actually matters. And now that you have done the hard part, you've changed your mindset, you can go to the easier steps and the easier part of the process, which is actually glowing up. Now I feel like internally glowing up is a little bit more challenging than physically glowing up because it's a little less black and white. And yes, it's more challenging, but I also feel like it's a lot more important than physically glowing up. And when I say internally growing up or mentally glowing up, I mean things like getting smarter, or maybe being more confident, or maybe just thinking a little bit differently than you did before. And I'm sorry, but the best way that I can put it is in brain rot terms, where people talk about how much aura somebody has. And although this stuff is probably brain rot, there is a lot of truth to that. When you think about that aura, it's never about a physical thing with the person. It's always about the way that they carry themselves, the confidence that they have when they walk into a room, or the way that people feel around them. And this is really why I emphasize the importance of changing your mindset, because glowing up internally really means just having that confidence to walk into a room and actually radiate that energy that you are valuable. You have got to believe that you are valuable. You have got to believe that you can be that person that walks into a room and changes the entire vibe. And if you're thinking to yourself, well, that's not true, I'm not valuable enough to walk into a room and change the entire energy, that right there is the first issue. If you don't believe that you can provide value, if you don't believe that you are confident, if you don't believe that the people in that room are going to benefit from you arriving in that room, then how is anybody else going to believe that stuff to be true? When you believe in yourself, the people around you believe in you as well, because you radiate this energy of confidence. People are like, what does he have that I do not have? What do they have that I need in my life? You have to turn yourself into a person that genuinely believes that they have value, that genuinely believes that they can walk into a room and just radiate confidence. And you do this in various ways. You do this by getting smarter. You do this by reading books and understanding things around you, realizing different perspectives on life, realizing different perspectives on these different topics that you want to learn about, journaling, meditating, truly understanding who you are, having that confidence that you know the type of person that you are, and you know your values, you know your limitations, you know your flaws, you know your physical strengths. You understand yourself to a degree that nobody else around you can understand. And I know how basic it is. When you read, when you meditate, when you understand yourself, when you journal, when you exercise, these things are going to make you confident. These things are going to make your mentality something that other people would strive to have. And that is what glowing up internally looks like. It's the consistent effort of understanding yourself and constantly learning different things. And I have a bunch of videos on my channel that dive a lot deeper in those concepts. And you can find it in pretty much any one of the playlists on my channel, or maybe just any one of the videos that you click on. So if you really want these specifics on how to internally glow up with all of these specific topics, I would definitely recommend that. And then finally, we have the physical glow up. And I've always thought about starting a fitness channel or a fitness Instagram or whatever to teach people how to physically glow up with fitness. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely let me know, because I never really got around to it. But I've said it before and I'm going to continue to say it. Physically changing, physically glowing up is the easiest thing that you can do in this entire process. You want to be confident. You want to look good, you want to feel like you look good, and that all starts with the physical body. And everybody really knows the basics. Hit the gym, do face care, buy better clothes, things that make you feel confident, whatever the basics are to you. But the question is, how can I stay disciplined? How can I continue to change physically, even on those days that I feel like I can't? Do it even when you feel like you can't. Do it when you feel like you're not motivated or disciplined to do it. And even a little bit is better than none. Even a little bit of exercise just builds up that habit, builds up that consistency to continue to do it every single day. And then eventually you're going to get to that point where you can hit the gym every single day. Or you get to that point where you can hit the gym even when you feel like you're not motivated to do so. And I also have a lot of videos about becoming disciplined and pushing through failure, and then when you feel like you don't have motivation. So if you want more in-depth tutorials on that, make sure you check those videos out. But there is really not much to say physically. You know what you have to do to improve yourself physically. It's just a matter of being consistent with that stuff and actually trying to do it. But just to wrap things up, I wanted to finally remind you guys that it all goes hand in hand. You cannot change mentally without changing physically. You cannot change physically without changing your mentality. Everything is kind of cohesive in a way. I really hope that this helps somebody. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.